This video is going to cover cut order. What parts get cut first, what parts get cut last. There are a few different ways of adjusting this, an automatic way and a manual way. We'll first take a look at the automatic way and also be able to view where the cut order is. So on the Info tab, there is a checkbox for cut order. Once you select that, you get a circle with a number inside of it. The circle is indicating the plunge for the first entry into the material, and then the number is indicating what part gets cut first. So currently it appears that I have it set to cut the smallest part first, then move on to the biggest part, which is the way you would want it to have done. But now the start points and the plunge points are also important to aid in part hold down. And we could modify this by going into Tools, Settings. Then we have the cut order. Currently it is set to be for the square footage. Then we also have the plunge order that could be rearranged. So right now it is standard. Standard is going to put all plunge points to the lower left, upper left, and lower right, upper right, and center. So center is going to gravitate all of the plunge points to the center of the material. This could help in the process of part hold down, and I'm going to explain that as soon as I close our settings. And I also have the option set to be center. That change is not going to take effect until after I click the Tools and then Nest. And I'm not going to do that just yet because I want to first take a look at why the plunge points are important. Going with the small part, with this part here, the vacuum is probably not going to hold that down, or it could be challenged by holding this part down. So with the plunge point set where this is right now, and with it being cut first, it's not in a terrible position because it is going around in a conventional cut. It is a left to right motion, so the cutter is going to plunge in here, go along the bottom, up, back to the left, and down. So not terrible. If the plunge point was the bottom right, that could be an issue because as the cutter goes up, over, and down, at this point here, it's making its last pass, it has already released itself from the rest of the sheet. So the only part that is being held down, or the only way this is being held down, is the air that is above the part itself. And the vacuum could be challenged by that. So making the plunge point in the upper right, or even here in this case the lower left, is not terrible because as it is cutting around here, it is still maintaining a solid connection to the rest of the sheet for that part hold down. So now we're going to go ahead and re-nest and see how the part order changes, or the plunge points change. So going to Tools, then Nest. And now we could see that all of the plunge points are kind of gravitated to the center of the sheet. It picks and selects the corner that is closest to the center, which helps orient the plunge points in a better manner that I was just speaking of, getting the plunge point farther away from the edge and helping to maintain the connection to the rest of the sheet while the small parts are being cut. Now we could set the cut order manually by clicking on a part. So notice that we have a total of 10 parts on this sheet. There's 1 through 10, and they are ordered from the smallest to the biggest. If we wanted to rearrange how these are going to be cut, it is clicking on a part, and the part that you click on becomes the last part that is cut. So if you select on all the parts in the order that you would like to have them cut, that means then the first part you clicked on ultimately becomes the first part that gets cut. So we'll pay attention to this as I go through, selecting this next part. We can see that becomes 10. The other part that I just selected first becomes 9. Also selecting the quadrant of the part that I want my plunge point to be. And I'm just going around and clicking in the order that I want to have these cut. So this one I am going to change the plunge point around a little bit because right now it's upper right, and as it cuts around, it comes down and over. This part is already cut, so the only section that's holding this to the sheet and holding our vacuum is the weight of the air above our part. So I'm going to change this plunge point to the bottom right. Selecting this one is going to be the bottom left. Going back up to our next part, and then the largest part. So as you could see, that part that we selected first, which was a 10, but we've selected and clicked on all the parts in the order that we want, so that first part I clicked on, as I was saying, ultimately becomes the first part cut. Hopefully this is going to help you with part hold down and getting a more efficient cut.